Where did all the corn go? I guess the corn never happened. Anyways, we're not having Halloween. I think it went somewhere else. It's over there somewhere. Anyways, okay, here we go. We're gonna get started here right away. Hey, Paul at Paul Component, and today we have another walk down memory lane, a little bit of mountain bike history on this bike. This is not a bike that I just bought and I'm super excited about. This is a bike I bought in 1996 and had it restored, and I'm super excited about it. So either way, totally excited about it. This is a 79 Lawill Knight Pro Cruiser. Mert Lawill, star of a very transformative movie, changed my entire life anyways, which I saw when I was about 13, called On Any Sunday motorcycle movie. It's giving me chills just thinking about going to the theater and watching it with my neighbor, Terry Callahan. This is Mert Lawill. Knight was the guy who built all the frames, who built all the flat track motorcycle race frames. So Mert Lawill was like, well, okay, what do? I want to get into bikes because bikes are happening, and back then BMX bikes were the thing. That was the cool thing. So he went to the Cove Bike Shop in Tiburon. This is all in Marin. This is all when it was happening, right in that time period, and said, hey, I want to build BMX bikes. And Don and Eric Koski, who owned and started the Cove Bike Shop. The Cove Bike Shop, if you don't know, is a humongous history in mountain biking, extremely important. They said, no, man, there's mountain bikes now, man. We're like going up the hill and riding them down really fast, and there's some gears on them, man. And so they made this bike. And one interesting tidbit was this fork was made by the Koski brothers at the Cove Bike Shop, and it is considered the very first mass-produced mountain bike component. Because like at that time, all the forks were crappy, but you could still scavenge shifters and grips. I mean, you could just get some other stuff for making a mountain bike, but a fork was like really, really hard to come by. There was nothing that. So it was like one of those, the first thing that was like, okay, if we're gonna do this, first thing we have to do is make a decent fork. So they made a decent fork. They showed the fork to Lawill. They also had built a frame, one frame. They showed it to Lawill. Lawill goofed around. Lawill came up with this, took it to Terry Knight, said, okay, make these. And in 78, they only made a few. Apparently they made 600 or 700 of them, batches of 50, and this was in 79, I think, through 81 or something like that. And what I'm leading to now is Breeze built 10 Breezers, the original 10 Breezers in 77. Some people would say this is arguably, there were the 10 Breezers in 77, 10 bikes. Okay, that's production run, but this was probably the first production mountain bike ever made before the stump jumper. Ritchie was making just frames. This was a complete bike. It was like buying a big kid's BMX bike. So I am so excited to own one of these, and of course I'd love to have the Breezer, one of the 10 Breezers, but those are like, those are out. Those left the building many years ago. Anyways, okay, what is next? We're gonna talk about how I got this bike. 1996, I traded it to an old classmate in engineering school. We went to Sac State together. He had it kicking around. He grew up in Tiburon. He was a Marin crunchy kid. Became an engineer. But his girlfriend needed some brakes, and he had known about, I was getting started, and I was making these things called stoplights, and they were called love levers back then too. And so I traded him a set of brakes and levers for his girlfriend's bike, and he gave me this. And I think I got a better deal than he did. Anyways, I've known it's special. It's been hanging in my shop since like 94, maybe even. Really, first couple of years we stayed in touch. And of course, back then they weren't anything big, but I knew it was important. It's been hanging in the shop. A guy named Ken Baker's come around. We've been friends. He's been by the shop, and every time he's like, I want to restore that bike. And I'm like, Ken Baker, he restores bikes? I know he does all this other stuff. And so I kind of put him off, and we talked about it for like, I don't know, 20 years. And just recently, it was time, and Ken wanted to do it, and we had to restore it. So when I got it, it didn't have all these parts. A lot of these parts are original. I'd say about half of them. It had greenhouse paint on it. Derailleur, I think, was missing. But a lot of the stuff that is on here was on there and part of the original build. Repaint, rechrome, the fork. The handlebars are new. They're a little bit more period correct. They've been swapped out at some point. The stem is original. The rims and hubs are original. The rims were stripped, polished, gold anodized. These are early Philwood hubs, the 3-piece style with the stainless steel center, which this is the only pair that I've ever owned, and I've always loved these hubs. And if you're a bike dork, like I'm a bike dork, Philwood, yes, competitor, but beautiful, beautiful hubs. And to own an early pair just makes me extremely happy. But these got rebuilt by a guy named Dustin who worked at Philwood. I'm not sure if he's working there still. Completely rebuilt, like a first-class rebuild. Things they won't do for old customers because these hubs are so, for other customers because these hubs are so old. So I got privilege, special treatment, and that was very nice. Thank you very much. Okay, so we got Mayfac brakes. We have Magura levers, Magura lever covers. These are new old stock. These are in really good shape. The Oakley ski pole grips, that's got to be where they came from. They have to be ski pole grips. These are on the bike, and these are pre-Oakley 3, I believe. Zephel HP pump, which would have been stock. These old Shimano tourney cranks, I had completely forgot about this crank, but this was what was happening back then. This was the cool crank for BMX bikes. What else do we have? Ken sourced a new old stock derailleur that matches a matching freewheel. When I say matching, I mean these were original spec items that came with the bike because it was sold as a complete bike through the Cove Bike Shop. And then these MKS pedals, which were originally on the bike, they were thrashed. This is a replacement pair in super good shape. We have a Cove Bike Shop sticker. Don Koski, who owned the Cove Bike Shop with his brother, applied that about 7 days ago, right before I got it, before I got this bike and took it on my first ride. Just really special. And it went to Mert Lawill's house because Ken had a connection, and they had a great chat, and they talked about it and took a lot of pictures, which we'll put in the video. I'm just so pleased to be able to hold on to this thing back in its original state. Yeah, I'm the caretaker until I'm not. But I'm just super stoked. Oh yeah, and I did ride it at the Cruiser Classic this year. Had a phenomenal time. Scared the crap out of myself. I haven't ridden a bike like this since, the 80s. And it's definitely different. But this is pretty much what happened. But if I would have ridden this bike in, back in the day, and it was the first mountain bike I've ever ridden, and it was a new thing, that's it. Mountain biker. Just like that. They started making them in 1978. This is an early one with no serial number. Yeah, this is a lot of information.